What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. What we got going on here is a 2000 Suzuki GSR 1300R Hayabusa. I believe the motor is actually out of a little bit newer one, like 2002 maybe is what the customer is saying. It's a nightmare. It's like literally a nightmare. I've already started working on it and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to shoot a video. Then I was like, you know what? I'll shoot parts here and there and tell you what I find. When I find it, go over that. The wiring harness is a nightmare on this thing. He tried to update it to a 30, I think he said a 32-bit from the 16 or whatever this thing was. I don't remember. I really don't mess with any of that stuff. I like things stock unless we got the proper stuff for it. But anyways, so we're gonna jump into some wiring on this thing. The gas tank is rusted. I already sucked all the fuel out of that. I'll show you guys what's going on with the wiring right now. Again, I don't know why I'm screaming. I just talk loud in general. You guys can see I haven't done hardly anything besides you know, unwrap the wiring. I hate when people wire stuff and it's wound in and out of the wiring. So you guys can see he's got a lot of this exposed and the connections are exposed. They need to be taped up right. A lot of this stuff is just hand twisted on. There's a few spots down in here. The map sensor wasn't on right. I want to check the spark plugs to see if those are any good, but I know the gas is bad. You can see it looks like it's been setting outside. So I need to blow all that out, cover up the throttle bodies, the air boxes on the other side. Again, you can see he's got black tape. He's got them hand twisted together. Easiest thing to do, guys, is just solder. We're just going to solder everything, put heat shrink on it. I got to do the whole entire tail section with all that. So we're going to have to put connectors on this. Again, he's got hand tightened here, twisted there, and some crappy butt connectors there. And that runs up to here, which runs to here. So each one of these connections off the stator is another hot point for this thing. So here's one, run back, that creates heat, that creates heat, this creates heat, and it plugs in up here. So there's a lot of things I gotta run through on this. Most of that's gonna be done off camera. And when I get into it and I find something that I redo, like I said, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna solder up a lot of these connections. Like take this back apart, solder that, make sure that's done right with, even though it's just a speed sensor, make sure that's all heat shrinked and done right. So a lot of things will be soldered, reheat shrunk, back up nice, neat, and then tape up the loom with some fabric tape. So that's a little bit nicer than just your regular old electric tape. And hopefully we can get this thing to fire up and run for them. Like I said, this wasn't the map sensor wasn't even hooked up. I was looking down the throttle bodies. Looks pretty clean down in there, but I want to blow all this out, check the spark plugs. I know I got a lot of debris out of the gas tank over there already, so check the oil and all that stuff. So as I go through this thing again, guys, I'll let you know what I find. I'm not going to sit here and just film it all, but I'll let you guys know what I find inside this thing. Hopefully we can get it running for him. He's been waiting for a while, so I'll keep you updated as the progress happens. All right, guys, so I drained the tank. I pulled the spark plugs. Let me show you what the spark plugs looks like here real quick. So I'm pouring the gas out into this bucket here. This is number 3. Little fouled out. It's pretty old looking. Number 4, same thing. Number 2, a little worse for wear. And number 1, you can just see how nasty looking that is. So he said he couldn't get this to run, so I found the map sensor unhooked. But you can also look down in here in the bucket and see what we got going on. This is what I drained out of the tank. The bucket was 99% clean, but let's see what we got here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Look at that. That came out of the tank. So there's no way this thing would have ever ran right. Ever. So that's what came out of the tank. The bottom of this is pretty dirty yet inside that. But you guys can see how nasty that is. Like I said, this bucket, besides this, was actually really, really clean. So doesn't even smell like fuel anymore. So definitely know we had a fuel issue, spark plug issue, which I got new spark plugs in. The map sensor here was not hooked up. Now that's hooked up. So I'm going to try to take the tank and clean it out a little bit more, siphon anything else that's left in there, pull the fuel pump out, take a look at that, throw it back on here, check fuel pressure. I'm not even going to put the air box on probably, just to see if we can get this thing to fire up and actually idle right. All right, so we got the fuel pump out here. You can see it's a little worse for wear. It might actually still work, but let's take a look in this tank real quick and show you what I found inside of here. Now we know it's a little bit rusty. You guys can see that, but that's in the bottom. That was in with the fuel. So this thing is definitely never, ever going to run. If you look here on the back wall, you can see chunks of rust coming off. So we'll try to throw some gas in here and rinse it out. I'll call the customer, maybe get a cream kit. I got to figure out, I would have to figure out how to seal this off, because I don't have, I don't know, I might be able to pull the fuel pump out of here and use this plate and seal it off. Possibly. I'm not really sure. I haven't had to seal off one of these because usually I don't have a problem with fuel injected tanks like this. But I can always make a piece of wood, measure that, and use an O-ring and press it on there. But give him a holler, see what he wants to do with this. I know he wants to just try to get up and running to see what's going on. So you guys can see that in there. That's pretty much what the fuel looked like. Let's take a look at this bucket again. I got it sitting way over here on the other side of the shop. See what it looks like after it's settled a little bit. There, it's still not settled, but you guys can see that. Bike definitely never run off of that. So we're gonna try to rinse that tank out and see what we can do and get this thing fired up and check that fuel pressure. All right, guys, got some fuel in the tank here. Fuel pressure gauge is hooked up. Fuel line, I could see a little bit of an issue. The fuel pump was leaking a little bit of fuel. I'm gonna actually take the fuel line back off, empty out whatever that was from the fuel pump to make sure we don't have any water in the system. And then we'll go ahead and turn the key on, prime this thing up, and see what we get as far as fuel pressure goes. All right, I believe I have enough fuel in the tank to prime up the fuel pump. Let's see here real quick. Turn the key on. Okay, primed it once. It's dropping awful fast, but again, oh, you can look at all the debris in that line. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna prime this up a few times into the bucket without anything. Let me grab my bucket. That is not good. That thing is full of debris. Could be another reason why it's not running. And we may have a couple clogged injectors if that's pushing it through the line on that real quick. So let's try to get some air back up into that, get all that debris back out. I'm gonna have to probably pull all the injectors out of this thing, take the fuel rail off, and clean all the injectors if it's that bad, just by priming it that one time. And it dropped back off really quickly. Woo! So, all right. So we're gonna point it down here into the bucket and prime this key multiple times. Run some of that fresh fuel through. Double check it for any type of debris, any discoloration. I can just see all that debris, all that water. That's water. I thought it was debris. That's actually water falling down through the fuel line right now. You can see the little water bubbles. Just watching it still just pour out. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera or not, but let me plug it up here. If you look in there, you think it's like debris flowing through. That's actually, you can see that water settle down there in the bottom. So that fuel pump is definitely full of some garbage. So we'll just keep priming it. Should have just bypassed the fuel pump and just ran it full power most of the time. I'm gonna let this thing set against the side of the lift so I don't have to keep holding it right now while all that runs down. Again, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can just see the little bits of water that ball up and flow through this thing. See if I can do this without knocking, like, let's see if I can make it into the bucket without this thing moving very much. I don't know. Again, Yeah, you could pick it up. I could pick it up. You can see it flowing down the backside. Should not be like that. I think the fuel pump has a constant leak too. It shouldn't be like that either. The fuel pump should just shut off and not keep leaking like it's leaking. But I'm gonna run through this a couple more times and see what we can figure out. All right, so it took a lot to prime it to get all the water out of the fuel pump or whatever that was in there. So let's see what kind of fuel pressure we get. It should hold steady around, I think, 50 something. I forget what it is off the top of my head. Let's just go ahead and double check that. There's 42, okay, yeah, 42, but it drops right back off. It should hold some pressure, should. But let's hit that starter button and see if we can't get this thing to fire up. Well, you see it makes 42 PSI, shuts the fuel pump off, drops right back down. So now I guess my next step is to figure out why is it not starting now. So I'm gonna guess clogged the fuel injectors. It does have brand new spark plugs. So I'm gonna check into all that and I'll get back to you guys soon. All right guys, so when I do fire it up, it doesn't run on all 4 cylinders, even though we do have new plugs in there. I can't even get it to run hardly at all. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the injector rail off this thing and check all the injectors and try to clean all those out and see if that cures our problem. All right guys, so I got the injectors cleaned out. They did have some rust and debris in there. With the fire back up, same scenario. So I had it idle a little bit. I pull off number 4 coil, doesn't change. Number 3 coil doesn't change. I pull off number 2, it falls on its face. I pull off number 1 and it does nothing also. So I'm gonna get a set of coils, throw some new coils in this thing and find out what's going on. All right guys, so we got our new used coils in. Let's pop that open, see what's going on here. Well, at least they package them pretty decent. Poor post office pays for all their shipping and stuff. So there's our new used coils from eBay. I am not a fan of buying coils off of eBay. I prefer brand new, but these aren't in too bad a shape at all. They said they're guaranteed to work. They also take returns. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna go ahead and start popping these bad boys out up here. And then I'll pull all these out. I'll do that off camera, put the new ones in and see what happens. All right guys, old coils out, new coils in. Let's turn the key on here. Now we will have a code for our airbox sensor. Pull the clutch in. Well, she still doesn't want to fire off. Got a C21, I believe that's the airbox. We are a little bit low on fuel, but she still does not want to fire up and fire off. Oh, let me dig in a little deeper and see what else is going on. All right, so here's where we're at on the Busa, guys. I was looking through everything. Everything mechanically seemed correct. It just didn't seem like we were running on 1 and 2. It does have spark. So I got to talking to the customer and he said that he had tried to update it to the 32-bit system. Basically, it's changing the flywheel. He's gonna put the whole updated harness in it for, I think it's 2002 to newer or something like that, 7 or something. So I was like, okay, so did a little more research and he had the 16-bit flywheel in there. And then I looked at the newer wiring harness on this thing that he's gonna put in there. And I look at all the pinouts on it, right? So, you know, I'm checking all the pinouts to make sure what's going on there. I'm like, okay, cool. So I walk over here with a photo of that and I check the pinout on what's on the bike. Well, somebody has been in here, he had bought it, he said he bought it like this. Somebody has been in here and I was looking at the pinout and the pinout is already set up for the 32-bit system. Can it run on a 16-bit flywheel on the 32-bit setup? I personally don't know. It seems like it ran on 3 and 4, but not 1 and 2. So I'm gonna throw in the new ECU real quick, that we got the updated ECU on this thing for whatever the harness is, because that's already pinned for the 32-bit system. The 32-bit flywheel's already in there. I put that in there, the 16-bit one's off to the side. I'm gonna put the ECU in there real quick and we're gonna see if this thing fires up, because he gave me the other ECU that he had. So I'll slap this thing in here real quick and then we'll see if it fires up. All right, ECU's plugged in. Hopefully we got enough battery juice. Let me go on and take the rags off the intakes here. We don't need to suck those in there. Let's see if this thing fires up. Sorry about a bad view. I'm hoping it's pinned out correctly because I know the carbs or the throttle bodies are synced together and everything. So pull the clutch in. Fires up. And it's still running crappy though. But it fired right up. Sounds like it's still dropping those 2 cylinders for some reason. That's very, very interesting. It's chugging on 1 and 2, I bet. Well, it fired up. I don't know why I was screaming again. Well, it fired up, but it's still chugging on 1 and 2. I have no idea why. So I guess I'll have to get back in this thing and figure it out. All right, guys, so the Busa issues, what we're going on here. So I was number 2. This is what happened. It's a brand new plug I put into this thing, and I probably took it out 3 or 4 times, and I didn't torque it very much, but it was running really good because we put the newer wiring, a newer 32-bit ECU in here because somebody had already repinned this for that and the rotor. I think we were talking about that earlier, but here we go. This was almost a catastrophic failure. This guy was stuck in the cylinder because I went to tighten it up or check it, take it back out, and it just spun freely. I thought, man, it has to be, like the threads in the head were gone. I'm like, this is gonna really suck. And then I took it out, and this is all I got. I was like, oh crap. So thank goodness this stayed in there, took it easy out, backed this out, went and got a new plug, checked my injectors one more time. So let me just kind of jump in here and let you guys see what this thing sounds like. We'll throw the key on. I know I'll be moving you guys around because I need to do this with 2 hands. Start button. Now you can hear she's running on all 4 cylinders. So I'm pretty pumped up about that. Now I just gotta go over and double check oil, double check the coolant. I already called the customer. He is super pumped, man. We just couldn't believe what a lot of our issues were. Like you guys saw, the rust in the tank, the bad fuel pump. Fuel pump I bought went bad. Got another fuel pump. And so you guys saw that we got the new fuel pump in there. The one I bought went bad. Put another Quantum in there. New spark plugs, new injectors. You saw the rust in the tank and the injectors and the old fuel pump. It just kept battling things, trying different things. Just couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was like, hey, let me just talk to the customer one more time. I mean, I got hours and hours in this thing, guys, and hours. And I knew he at one point in time wanted to go to the 32-bit system on this because this one's a 16-bit. And he said, man, I gave you everything I got besides the ECU. He goes, the wiring harness in there is a 16-bit one. He goes, I never even took it out, or maybe I took it out and he put it back, or whatever it was. 16-bit rotor was in it, 16-bit, the 99 2000, a 16-bit ECU was in here, and it just was acting funny, man. And I did everything mechanically sound in this thing was mechanically sound. Everything mechanically sound was really good. That made a lot of sense. But anyways, you know, I had great almost no leak down, great compression, valve clearances were perfect, timing was perfect. So I was doing some research, and then I was like, well, let me just look at the wiring harnesses, the pin out the ECU, because when you change to a 32-bit system with the 16-bit harness, you have to change, I think, 6 pins in the ECU connector. And I realized that this one was all taped up already. So I checked the updated, the newer wiring harness and compared it to the old one, and somebody had already repinned it for the 32-bit system. He said he never did that. The previous customer or previous owner must have. The crazy part was that it ran on the 16-bit rotor with the 16-bit ECU, but didn't run right. It only ran on a couple of cylinders, so I'm pretty sure that the fuel injection timing was off, a little bit of the ignition timing was off, so it ran really, really bad. So I saw that pin out and I talked to him. He's like, there's no way. I'm like, absolutely. I said, bring me the ECU. I got the ECU last night, plugged it in today, and holy crap, it fired right up and ran really well. It didn't run perfect. I had to go back in. I double checked the injectors, made sure those are all super clean. And of course I ran across that problem with the spark plug because it just started dropping number 2 randomly. I was like, man, we got good used good, known good coils in it, brand new injectors, brand new fuel pump. Fuel pressure was great. And that's why I checked that spark plug one more time, and lo and behold, that ended up being another one of our problems. So I think we got this thing cured. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through it and finish up the final stuff on there. He's going to go back through this winter and clean up the wiring harness and solder everything and heat shrink it and take care of all the cosmetic stuff. I was just here to make sure this motor was running right for him. So you guys see we ran all those problems. Again, guys, if you guys haven't subbed, I'd really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like it. I know it's kind of just bits and pieces here and there. I wasn't planning on doing a video on this thing at all, so I just shooting bits and pieces just to kind of make something for you guys. Again, if you got any questions about motorcycles, ATVs, or UTVs, please leave a comment down below, or you can email me at limitlesspowersports78@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Limitless Power Sports Service and Repair, on TikTok at Limitless Power Sports Sir and Rep. Again, guys, I appreciate it. Keep checking out my content, and I'll keep making more for you. I'll catch you guys on my next upload.